big stretch, sorry. Okay. All right, so we talked about the oral sense making that happens in our math contexts, specifically students making sense of division. Yeah.
So we're presenting together because we're both in 3rd grade and our teachers co-teach-ish.
They
right next to each
co-plan.
other. Co-plan, I meant. So we're at BCSIS, Boulder Community Schools of Integrated Studies. 3rd grade, we are a predominantly white classroom and school. English-speaking students. There are no EB students in our classes or any in the school that I know of. And our topic is math, and we're focusing on division, and all of our math and curriculum is from Bridges, and focusing in on story problems, word problems.
Yep.
I like your slides.
Thank you.
Sorry.
All right, so this is just the rundown of what we're going to be talking about. So first we're going to be talking about the phenomena, then the plan, some examples of student work, because we're talking about, because our presentation's about how students are orally talking. Oh, duh, you orally talk. So stupid. Anyway, just like the things, the discourse moves that we use to get students thinking about these ideas about division, and then the cognitively guided formative assessment that we thought about as we created or taught the lesson, and then we'll have some time for questions as well.
And we're doing oral, as Sydney said, rather than written.
Yeah.
So that's what orally speaking. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, our phenomena. So for this lesson is for students working through story word problems using division strategies they have learned from us, and students discussed how they solved these division problems with their peers and teachers. It was possible for students to see the relationship between multiplication and division when they participated in orally making sense of problems.
Which was one of the big ideas of the lesson, was showing that relationship and how important it is between multiplication and division, because they go hand in hand. Yeah. All right, so these are the examples. So first we have our division strategies that we taught the kids. So an array is one way that we can think about division. Equal groups, so putting each, well, we'll talk about that one a little bit more. And then fact families, you can think about, oh, what's the total? We call them math mountains. So you put the total on top, and then you have like 2 lines, and then you put the 2 numbers. So like with 24, you have it at the top, and then 6 times 4. So then 6 times 4 equals 24. 4 times 6 equals 24. And then 24 divided by 4 equals 6, and then 6 divided by 4, or 24 divided by 6 equals 4. And then repeated subtraction, because that is what division is.
A lot of my kids use actually repeated addition. So what I'm realizing, because if they have 24 divided by 6 equals 4, they do, 6, 12, 18. So they do repeated addition, which I didn't write as a strategy.
Yeah. And then one of the examples of those story problems was, if I had 24 cookies and I wanted to divide, I can't see. If I had 24 cookies and I wanted to divide them evenly among 6 children, how many cookies would each child get? And then this, that bottom picture is one of the workbook pages that they had, that they worked on, and we all, this will also be talked about later, we walked around and heard them speaking about it. Yeah, asked questions.
Okay, our plan. So, oral sense making, as teachers, we all know that it did happen throughout the whole thing. It's not beginning, middle, or end, but if we had to pinpoint, it would be very present in the middle during a lesson. So when Sydney and I are up at the doc cam, having volunteers come up and explaining their strategies or showing their work from yesterday and explaining what they did. And also at the end, when they go back to their seats and they work on related pages in their packets, we go around and assess them without them knowing.
Yeah, that's where the formative assessment piece comes in. And so the basic goal of the lesson was to deepen the students' understanding of that relationship between multiplication and division by thinking through those word problems orally. And so they would solve the division story problems with dividends to 100 involving situations of equal groups. which is one of the division strategies.
And it was one of the skills and concept that bridges the curriculum hoped they learned from this. All right, our students' work. So on the top picture with the dinosaur is so the problem was it was 36 divided by 4 equals something, but they just rewrote it because they're more confident in multiplication, as most of the students are, and she chose to do equal groups, and then they usually check their work because I want them to do something other than skip counting, repeated addition, which they're comfortable with, but I tell them, there's going to be bigger numbers in your future, so you can't just do skip counting every time. So they like to do a strategy that I suggest, and then they check their work with skip counting.
And then student B was a student from my classroom, and so what I had them do was they read the problem, and it was 35 divided by 5 equals 7. And so then I had them take the time to work on it on their own, and then I had a volunteer come up, and I said to them, I want you to answer it how you did using the strategy that you prefer, and I want you to explain to the class what you're doing as you're doing it, basically. And so they drew an array, and they did a great job explaining it. We'll talk about.
And in my class, we're doing arrays obviously too, but some of my students, or I guess like 3 of my students, are really struggling with it. So we took the tiles out, like literal pieces, right? And they understand the concept when they're actually doing it and explaining it, rather than just using pencil and paper and doing it.
Okay.
Discourse moves.
So what we had planned to do as we taught this lesson for this to assess the kids was to revoice, so restating what a student is saying, explicate reasoning, can you say more, tell me more, wait time, ask students to think about it before answering. And so we implemented those as we taught the lesson, how they were implemented. So one student would say how they solved the story problem, and then what we would say and what we did say is, so what I'm hearing you say is this.
And another student could have gone deep. If another student, because sometimes they just say 7 or 6, it's like, okay, go deeper. So then we say something like, that's a great start, can you tell me more about that? And obviously these questions can be for any subject, but we
specifically use them for math.
And for one problem, we had students turn and talk to a neighbor. We do that a lot on the run, both of us.
That's like the one move that I think I use the most in my classroom, and especially for math I use it, because math is really tough, especially in 3rd grade. It's getting a lot harder, and so these topics are really new, and sometimes you need to talk to someone to make them make sense in your head. And so giving them the time to talk to someone next to them can help them so much with their learning. And as that's happening, we can hear what they're saying, what they're talking about. And so sometimes what I do is, if I hear something that's really great from a student when they're talking to their neighbor, I'll ask them to say it in front of the whole class so that everyone can hear that really great piece of information that that student had said.
Cognitive guided formative assessment. So
this is what we kind of guided our thinking.
Used to record student responses.
Yeah.
So, and in our curriculum, there's actually italics that give us, when we're like prepping or planning for our lesson, it tells us what some students could possibly say, which is kind of awesome because
it always happens.
Yeah, because I'm like, I plan for, the slip-ups or the situations that are not planned, kind of thing. Anywho, so an example of an anticipated response from students is, I drew a picture to figure it out. I drew 6 faces. Actually, no, this is
Yeah, one of our kids was saying this.
I drew 6 faces for the kids, and then passed out 24 cookies by putting a tally under each face until I had 24 tallies in all. Everyone got 4 tallies, which means everyone got 4 cookies. So they like to draw pictures also to start before doing an array or something to check their answer.
Mm-hmm.
So they were doing equal groups by drawing with the picture.
One thing that I think is important about this is, like, we've been with our students for almost a full school year, and so we have a bit of a grasp of where they all are academically, specifically in math. And so these anticipated responses really came from knowing our students and what they might say and how one student might go about answering it. And so for the second one, we have a lot of really high kids, which is so crazy and so cool because it's so amazing to see their work and they just like know stuff and we're like, what? But sometimes we do have students say, I just know that 24 divided by 4 equals 6, or 24 divided by 6 equals 4.
Also
I mean, it's the same thing, so, but, so sometimes they just know. And then that's where those talk moves really come into play of, okay, that's great that you know that, but can you go deeper? Like,
I said,
what more?
I said, tell me more to the kid who said the middle column, and he's like, my grandma just like taught me or whatever. And I'm like, I don't really know how to push him farther than that. I'm just like,
yeah.
But yes, you do at least try with one talk move, and then you just smile and wave.
Sometimes that happens. But our ideal response from a student would have been, I have another way I can show you with tiles, which is what we kind of talked about.
An array.
Yeah, is an array with tiles. I knew one side would be 6 for the kids, so I put 6 little red line pieces in a column for the kids. Then I made a column of 6 tiles beside the line pieces, and then I kept adding columns of 6 until there was 24. So it's 6 up and 4 across. That means each kid would get 4 cookies. Yeah.
How long was that? Or how long are we?
You are at 12 minutes.
Perfect.
All right. It's fine. It's fine.
I don't think you
I
have
think
to do
I
it.
know
You're
you're
fine.
I don't think
Otherwise,
it matters.
the groupings would be.
That would make no
Keelan,
sense.
if you're watching this, we all voted that they don't have to.
Okay, so then
And we also like didn't do,
Well, you did the project together, so
Yeah.
it's
So
not
you
like
shared
you
the
have
same
things
data.
yeah, you
Yeah.
shared the same data.
yeah.
all right, question.
Anyone have any questions?
I very much like understand where you guys are coming from because I have a lot of high kids too.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not necessarily it's kind of what I did with my project too. It's not
Mhm.
necessarily the scaffolding, but more so like asking them if they can explain how they got their
Mhm.
answer.
Yeah.
So I really liked this project because I can very much relate. I can very much relate to it. With
Because
my
you didn't,
kids.
if you don't like have to scaffold, why would you? Like
Yeah, and if-
Megan and Gabs had to, and they put the effort in because it would affect their kids.
Positively.
I was gonna say negatively. But we.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
did such a bad job with your
Yeah.
scaffolds.
And it's just
Where's the
interesting.
now?
No, you didn't.
It's just interesting, like how we all can kind of change curriculum in a different way, and students can still come out of it positively learning something,
Right.
regardless of if they're a GT or if they're an EB.
Right.
It's super cool, and you guys did a great job.
Yeah, Shannon.
Thank you.
Do you think
Thank you.
your the achievement is kid, home support, or like the way your guys' like school runs?
School.
Okay.
Achievement as in like
Like students
Well, you're saying like that they're
understanding.
high.
success. I think it's school based, because
Wait, can you
but it's
restate your
school
question?
based, but it's
Sorry.
also like
well, you're
wait,
saying like,
it's
oh, we have
school-
such high kids. Like,
right.
is
I
it?
think it's school based and teacher
Okay.
based, but I think it's also they're privileged in a way, or they're privileged. Not that underprivileged. Shoot.
It's just like I think
They just have more resources, and the
Yeah.
school is well funded, and
By
they
parents.
have paras everywhere and parent volunteers, and it's like 7 student teachers.
It's like a lot of support.
Yeah, they're a well-resourced school because they're in
Yeah.
a good area.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
thank
doesn't
you.
mean that the
That's
whole
not
life
bad.
is perfect, but
Yeah.
like when you go into an environment that's well-resourced and has what you need, you're probably more likely to succeed.
I also noticed, just as we were like making this, that I'm like using talk moves a lot more than I thought I would be. Not even just in math. I don't know if that is how it is for you guys either. But like even in foundations, I use talk moves. Or I hate foundations.
I suck.
I am so bad. I have a terrible story.
Thank God I don't.
But I had kids laughing at me because I did it wrong. And
Okay, we're recording.
anyway, sorry. But like when they're marking something up, I'll be like, "Oh, can you explain what this kid just did?" as they marked it up. And I think
It works.
it works in STEM classes. It works in literacy. It's really great. Talk moves are great tools. It's a great way to assess kids, and it works for our student population really greatly, really well. So
Greatly
yeah,
or really great.
really great. Yeah. Thank you guys.
Rock on. You guys killed it. I love this.